Pretty impressive night so far. I really like hearing people talk from their heart, and that's what's happening. And that's what this sport is all about. I want to thank Cresco, Iowa, actually, because that's who motivated me in my career, Cresco, Iowa. My high school coach, Bob Siddons, would always talk about Cresco, Iowa, because it was something that motivated him, because he knew of the love for the sport of wrestling, and he knew Cresco loved it as well. If you look at my career, I went to Iowa State University and Harold Nichols, Cresco, Iowa. Then when I coached in my career, it was Gary Kurtelmeyer, Cresco, Iowa. And actually, as a wrestler, was a guy named Tom Peckham, Cresco, Iowa. So, to me, this is a great evening that nobody in this town should not want to be here. And because of that, we do have a battle going on. Because there's a lot of things in the world that make a difference in what area that you go to. In the state of Iowa, there's no other sport that's been better worldwide than wrestling. And then when you look at the state of Iowa, you look at a place like Cresco, Iowa, and it's really all over the world. You know, and that's amazing. And we have a Hall of Fame right here. I have a Hall of Fame in my hometown of Waterloo for wrestling. And across the world, people know about these Hall of Fames. They know about these inductees. I have a quote that says, "Once you've wrestled, everything else in life is easy." And the reason why that quote's there is because it's much more easier after having gone through a 2-hour wrestling practice to do other things in life. And then you do it over and over again, and then you become even more focused, and you might do it twice a day. Not necessarily 2 hours, but you might add up. So this town is still known for wrestling. And it will continue to be known for wrestling, as well as other things. And that's why when I come into town, I love seeing the Hall of Fame on the edge of town, the Cresco Hall of Fame. I love seeing things that make people want to be better in their life. It just so happens in Iowa, we've had a lot of great wrestlers over the last 125 years. And to continue to be able to do this, to set the standard, it is very important. What's going on in the world right now needs examples like the people that were and are talking here tonight. No easy way. No easy way. I had to learn, and I happened to be with a great coach named Bob Siddons. I happened to be in a great town that was wrestling crazy, Waterloo. I happened to be also associated with Cresco, Iowa as well, to my career. But what's really important is that we continue to give young people opportunities to be the best they can. And I've heard some people talk up here about their success. And it doesn't stop just with wrestling. It goes into their homes. It goes with their children. And it goes everywhere, that work ethic. So I was a young coach, even though I'd been the captain of the West High team, captain of the Iowa State team. But I was a young coach at the University of Iowa in my first year when Brad Smith came to the University of Iowa. Now here's a guy that was an all-stater in football. He was an all-stater in baseball. And he was a two-time, I believe, undefeated state champion in wrestling. And he came in. And I was a newcomer, and he was basically a newcomer to college. And what he told me, I believed him, what he told me, because I talked to him a little bit. And he said that he was pretty much a self-made guy, and that he really knows how to train, and he knows how to do this, and he knows how to do that. So then he made the team, and he performed. And it wasn't quite like that speech that he gave me. There were some things there that I was trying to figure it out being a coach, what he needed. And when he first came, he filled out a form, and I went back to that form, and I looked at that form, and I read that form, and that form said that he didn't need this, didn't need that, he already had this, and he already had that, and he was well on his way. But it wasn't being proved, and I didn't really understand it. So I let 1 year go by, I let another year go by, and a third year go by. And I'm an assistant coach. So my fourth year, I finally start to get it. You know, maybe kids don't tell you exactly what they really want to tell you. There's more to it. So I go to him and I figure things out. And yes, this guy needed help, just like everybody else needs help. Nobody doesn't need help. And we talked, and he looked at me and he goes, hey, you just come off an Olympic championships and you're the first year assistant head coach. And he tells me, I couldn't tell you anything negative. I had to tell you everything, no matter what you said. I couldn't tell you what I really believed. And so, you know, it's a good lesson. It's a good lesson for family. It's a good lesson for kids. It's a good lesson for coaches or employers with your employees. Don't believe them unless they prove it. And so finally, after going into the fourth year, I said, this guy's got more than I've been getting out of him. And so I just put in front of him a task. When we started the season, September, early October, I said, we're starting practice, and 3 days a week, 2 days a week for the next 3 weeks, after a full wrestling practice, I'm gonna take you out in the country. And I'm gonna be there in the car right beside you, but I'm gonna take you out 10 miles after the wrestling practice. And you're gonna run back to where we started. And I'm gonna motivate you all the way with telling you to keep going hard. But then I realized, now wait a minute. If he knows the days, in fact, I think I took him out the first time, possibly, and he ran it pretty good. But then I remembered, man, he was dogging it in practice today. So he was starting to figure something else more than me, and I had to go and figure it out. That's why you got to be a coach, you got to be a parent, you got to figure things out. And so I said, I'm not going to tell you which day I'm going to take you out there. And I made sure that he worked hard during that practice. And for the next 3 or 4 practices that I took him out. In fact, I made sure it was the hardest practice that we had. And so he had to run 10 miles back in town. Because one of the things I noticed and figured out, it took me too long, was that he was really good. But he's found a way to lose sometimes more than he should. And it was usually at the end of a match, or it was usually in the 3rd period. So I kind of slapped myself. I said, I got to do this. And sure enough, you add on some extra difficulties when people are willing. They got to be willing. And all of a sudden, the guy goes and he wins an NCAA championship. And he beats the defending champion in the semifinals. I don't know if it went overtime or not.
12-5.
Oh, you beat him pretty good, huh? But it was close until 2 guys tied up, bear hug to bear hug, and you threw him on his back. And then he goes into the finals, and what's he do? He measures the guy in the finals. And where have I been for 4 years? That speech, those runs should have been after the first year, or after 2 months, or after, so you got to learn, and you don't wait so long. But then he goes on, and my coach, Bob Siddons, is the #1 coach in the state of Iowa as far as championships. And what's he do? He goes to Lisbon, Iowa, he goes to Iowa City, and he goes back to Lisbon. And all of a sudden, this guy becomes the best coach credentialed of all time in the state of Iowa. And you go back and you think, all of a sudden, he can use his career. And he doesn't have to wait 3 years. He can use it immediately on what sometimes makes a difference when you really look at each situation. And so, I don't know what more I say. I want to get him up here because I talked too long, but he had 19 team titles, 179 medals for kids, 64 individual championships for individuals. And so he took over Bob Siddons' role. And hey, Bob Siddons has part of it. Bob Siddons was me. Bob Siddons went into him. And, that's the way it is. Records are meant to be broken, and this guy did it. So I'm going to get him up here. He's the inductee, the 152nd inductee to this Iowa Wrestling Hall of Fame. And thing is, he wants to quit, and not quit, you don't use the word quit ever, but he wants to get out of coaching and go to knowing that he's got a wife, Connie, and spend some time with her. But what's he do right away? I don't know if it was Connie or him, but he got back into coaching right away the first year that he was out, just because he took and helped the situation out. And I don't know what he's going to do next, but maybe he'll realize he does have a wife, and
Thank you,
yeah, and that he should stick with that instead of going back into coaching. But I'm not so sure. We'll see. Anyway, bring him up here, Brad Smith.
I really did enjoy those runs. I think we did it at least 6 times. But if it wasn't for Dan and his philosophies and strategy, I probably wouldn't have been a national champ. So I owe him a lot. Basically, when I started out wrestling, I started wrestling in 7th grade. But before I started wrestling, I played basketball a little bit. And so I went out for the 7th grade basketball team. All my buddies did it. And we didn't have, we just had intramural wrestling, no interscholastic wrestling. So I make the top 15 on the board. And I looked at after the tryouts. But they found out they only had 12 uniforms. So he posted the next day, my name wasn't on there. Either was Gary Brosite's name or Jed Klein's name. 3 guys that cut. So me being a competitive guy, I went and talked to the coach. He goes, "Coach, why'd you cut me?" He goes, "Smith, because you're a ball hog." Thank you for the selection committee and the board of directors for nominating me. Congratulations to all the other nominees. I've known you guys for a long time. All great individuals, very deserving. Great crowd here, a lot of familiar faces, and this is just a great honor. First of all, I want to introduce my wife, Connie. She's the one that let me do 46 years as a head coach. She's always had my back, not always in a happy way, but she gave me the opportunity to spend as much time as I needed to do to be successful. Because as you coaches know, it's not just during practice. You're thinking about it at night, you prepare for your practices the next day, you think what's best for the kids. It's not an easy job, but I loved it. I had 3 boys that wrestled for me at City High, all very successful. And now we have 6 grandkids from my 3 boys, from their wives. So, and great family. Family's number one. I've always said family's number one. Some people don't always believe that. Wrestling's very important to me, but family's always number one in my book. Now those 10-mile runs, basically more than cardio-wise, it helped me right here. Gave me the mental toughness to go through that 7-minute match and not get tired. And I worked hard. I worked hard every day. You know, Dan said I kind of let up a couple times during practice. I don't know if I did or not, but he would know better because he's got an eye for it. If you're not working, he'll know it. I got a couple of wrestlers out here that wrestled for me at Lisbon. First, Scott Morningstar and his wife, Jackie. Scott was a 4-time state champion. He was my first state champion in 1980. I started in 78, 79 season. We were runner-up that year. Scott was also on my first state championship team in 1980. Also, right next to him is who Coach Gable calls toughest guy in the room, toughest guy he's coached, and he's probably one of the toughest guys I've had the opportunity to coach, is Royce Alger. He, a 3-time state champion, went on to college to be a 2-time national champion. Did you ever win a Big Ten title? 3. Okay, I know he does, because he always gives me crap, because I never won a Big Ten title. I took 3/3, but never a Big Ten title. So Royce always had that on me, obviously. Took 2nd in the world, okay, and he's still coaching right now. Another thing that's really great about your former wrestlers, they go on to have great careers, not only in the wrestling, but after. And that's really important for me as a coach. Scott Morningstar owns a great business in Lisbon, it's an insurance company. Roy still works with elite athletes in the wrestling field and does a great job. I might have a story or two about Royce. This is high school stories. And this is true because his mom told me this. He used to fill up gallon jugs of water and hide it around the house because he was always had fear of the farm that they would run out of water. Seriously, that's one thing he did. He's a real competitive guy. Before the senior year, before the state tournament, he had about 10 guys lie side to side and did a running jump over those guys Didn't quite make it. Landed on his shoulder. Every year in the state tournament, Royce always had something wrong with him. If he didn't have something wrong with him, I was worried. But his shoulder was kind of bummed his senior year, but went through the field, and his final match, I can't remember where the kid was from. Harris Lake Park. This kid took off his shirt, and he was huge. Royce was not a big 67-pounder. Story on that was, we had a guy at 67 named Dan Burgess. He was small for that weight, and Royce was our 55-pounder. And before the sectional tournament, earlier than that, I had him switch weights. Royce, for the benefit of the team, went up to 67, okay? And Burgess went down to 55 because he was light. Burgess didn't win a match until his junior year in high school. Here's a guy that came a long ways. So it all worked out. So Burgess wins state at 55 that year. Royce won at 67, but the guy who wrestled in the finals took off his shirt, and Royce goes, Coach, that guy's huge. So Royce goes out there and proceeds to just kick the guy's ass. That was the score. 15-3, almost teched him. Doing foot sweeps, inside trips, unbelievable.
Hey, this is your day, guy. I'm talking about you.
I'm still talking about you. No, I'm done. My first job interview at Lisbon was with Al Baxter. Al Baxter, great coach, Hall of Fame coach. And he was getting ready to leave for Buena Vista, so I was 22 years old, first job, talking to, I thought it'd be with the principal, the AD, a couple wrestlers. No, it was just me and Al. Me and Al talking for half an hour just about wrestling. We had a great talk, and we had a lot of things in common. We hit it off right there. He was the guy that kind of ran the school, and he was the man that made the decision. So I got home, and as soon as I got home, got the phone call from Al. He got the job. And I just had a lot of respect for Al and what he did. 'Cause his 9 years there, I think he had 5 state titles. Okay, great coach, and had a great career at BV too. Okay, 46 years is a long time to be a head coach. I did 13 years at Lisbon, 21 years at Iowa City High. I took over for Clyde Bean, another Hall of Fame coach. He retired. I was going to retire after that run there, and I was going to open up a wrestling facility, and we even had the land picked out in Lisbon. And I kind of thought about it a little bit. There were so many good clubs in the area. I was given a second thought. And right when I was thinking about that, one of my former wrestlers called, Greg Buttress, said, "We need you back here at Lisbon," because they were kind of going down a little bit. And I went back. So I retired for about 2 months, went back, and we had won a couple other state titles there and got the program back to where it needed to be. And so another 11 years at Lisbon, and then I retired for a year playing pickleball. You can only play so much pickleball. 3 days a week. So we played pickleball 3 days a week. Did a lot with my wife and family and that, and I missed it. And Kyle Fornes was an assistant of mine at City High for 6 years. And he's the head coach at Clear Creek Manor. And he got deployed this year. Talked to me about it. Actually, I got the meet at City High. Used to be called the Bean City Duels. It's now called the Bean Smith Duels. So when I went to that, Clear Creek Manor was in it. He talked to me at that time if I wanted to come back. And I said, "Yeah, sure, no problem. But I better check with my wife." And I didn't really think about it for a while, and I finally asked her, and she was good with it, since he's doing something for our country. He's in the Army Reserves, and he's a medic, and he's been deployed, I think, 3 times now. Hopefully last time. He's in Texas, but he only comes back for leave maybe once, twice every couple months. So I took it over for him this year. Had a good season. We had qualified 11 guys. They were pretty bad 5 years ago, 6 years ago. He's really developed a culture in that program. The kids really responded to it. Very coachable group of kids. Some of them not real talented that made it to state meet. You know, top 3 go. We had maybe 6 or 7 thirds. But we had some really good kids too. And it was a joy to do that after a year off. And every day, I'm looking forward to practice. You know it's still in your blood. Let's see what we got here. So, this probably may be it. Unless my wife wants me to go back and wants me out of the house, I'll coach again. But I don't think that's the case. Here's some things that I learned that makes a successful coach, and everybody knows a lot of these things. You got to set your goals. You got to set your goals high, but you got to set your goals not too high that are not obtainable. You got to be realistic in how you set your goals. You have to have a game plan. I always wrote my goals down in high school, college, what I wanted to reach by a certain time. If I didn't reach it by a certain time, I get down a little bit, but I kept pushing forward. Okay, then you got to reevaluate to see where you're at. I taught kids that, in detail, how to set their goals and how to work for their goals. Okay, and not just be complacent in what they do. As a coach, I prepared for each practice every night. I never wrote a practice down for a week. I do the practice every day, one at a time. You see how that practice goes. You evaluate how the practice went, and then maybe you have to cover something again, review it, and go on from there. So every day was planned out. I never just winged it, not a single day. Develop the culture in your program. You guys know all about that. You guys expect to win when they go out on the mat. They want to give the best performance they possibly can. Sometimes it's not always what you want, but as long as a kid gives 100%, that's all you can ask. And my wrestlers, every time they went on the mat, I feel they gave 100%. Didn't always turn out the way they wanted or turn out the way I wanted, but that's just the way it is. Tradition. I came to Lisbon, they had a tradition. Made my job easier. Al Baxter set the stage. When I went to City High, Clyde Bean left me a really good team. They had never won a state championship in wrestling, ever. My first year there, we won a state championship because he left me 6 or 7 really good kids that I got the most out of that year, and we won. One of them that was a pretty good wrestler was Jeff McGinnis. His junior year, I came, and I coached him at a camp when he was like 6 years old, at a wrestling camp at Camp Wapsie in Cedar Rapids, several years. And I met Jeff when he's just a little, I can't say that, but he was a little rascal. You could tell right away the kid was going to be good right then. And then I came back and got an opportunity to coach him. Man, he was effortless in his technique. You never saw him ever strain. You have to really give it out all you got to finish a technique. No expression ever changed. He went on to be a 2-time national champ, right, Dan? He was a 2-time national champ, 3-time place winner. So he was fun to coach. Same thing with Al Baxter. The other thing that I've been fortunate enough is been to coach, surround myself with a lot of good coaches. At Lisbon I had Dean Happel, 3-time state champ, I coached him. I had Shane Light, 4-time state champ. I coached him. He was on my staff at Lisbon. I had Brian Hall, who won a state title his senior year. That clinched I think it was his junior year, wasn't it? His junior year, it was pretty close. He clinched it. He was behind 14-2 in the championship match. And the guy, not too smart, he locked up with him and an over and under. And Brian had an unbelievable hip toss and a lateral drop. Lateral dropped the guy to his back and pinned him. That was it. That clinched the title. And it's the highest I've ever jumped off the mat my whole life. I was about 6 feet off the mat, and we clinched it. It took pressure off of Scott in his match and some of the other guys, so that was wild. But that's part of it, you know, surrounding yourself with good people. You know, I was always told you need to get along with the custodian staff at your school. And the reason is because anytime you have a favor to ask, you always go to custodian, they'll get the job done for you, even before the administration will. But you got to get along with your administration too, and I always did, and that helped. One thing that, before I close here, I always found ways to improve as a coach. I never got complacent. You know, I looked for different ways to learn other techniques. I was always online looking at technique from Gable and even Massey and other guys, Randy Lewis. You know, some of the stuff you couldn't teach kids that Lewis does. No way. But he came to one of my camps at City High one year, and the kids just loved him. And they were trying the stuff that he showed. And so a couple guys picked up some things, definitely. Dangerous moves. He's a danger guy. You know, he's built some out of anywhere. It's just so fun to watch, Randy Lewis. But I just, you know, spent a lot of time researching. I still watch videos. I learn from other coaches, you know, clinics and things like that. Anything online that I can pick stuff up. You know, I learned stuff from Jason Christensen, okay? And Coach Brent from Osage, Ron Gray, all those guys have coached. You learn from other people. You're not that good yet. You got to learn from other people, and that's what I've always done. Looking for ways to improve. And the last thing is, I think what I've been really good at, and I learned a lot of this from Dan, is picking your wrestlers at the right time. Don't burn them out. You know, even as a first-year coach, I kind of knew how to push guys at a certain time and let up at a certain time. And good coaches are able to do that. You can see that in your wrestlers. And, you know, I saw that in my wrestlers. You know, after winter break, we'd go 2-a-days, 3 times a week until about 2 or 3 weeks before sectionals. And now it's just districts. And then just back off a little bit. Just continue to keep our conditioning and work on things individually the kids needed to work on to get ready for when it really counted. And I think that really helped out because we were able to excel when it really counted. And I think that's important as a coach, and that's something I've always done really well. It's an honor to be able to talk to you, to listen to all the other inductees. You guys did an awesome job. This is a great community. I was excited to be over at the Hall of Fame. I hadn't been there before, ironically, and I should have. But it's been fun, and I'm closing with that. Thank you very much for everything.